For centuries, we've been told what is pure and what is sinful, what is allowed and what is forbidden. Somewhere along the way, we severed the human from the divine. We silenced intuition, shamed the sacred, and buried ancient wisdom. But here, we remember. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast, an exploration of the mystical, the intuitive, the cosmic forces that weave our existence. This is a soulful sanctuary where we embrace the strange and unusual and use it as fuel to reclaim the magic, restore the sacred, and discover ultimate truth. Come and share your stories in a space where fierce hearts and fantastical gifts are not only welcomed, but needed. So take a bite. You were never meant to be forbidden. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast. We are your hosts, Jeanette St.Germain and Catherine Kells. In today's episode, we explore the topics of life purpose, free will, and destiny. We share how certain moments seem touched by the divine, and how that offers us the possibility of a greater plan unfolding in our lives. We explore spaces of duality, unity, and separation, and discover the oneness of it all. Let's dive in. So we were kind of touching on before we started the recording, touching on this feeling of excitement because there's all this creative potential, all these different things that we're doing and wanting to do and have chosen to do, signed up for. And then at the same time, trying to juggle and navigate like this feeling of overwhelm and trusting the process at the same time and just being open to the flow of it, right? And how we do that not only within ourselves, but in groups of people where there's lots of different ideas and perspectives and experiences that people are bringing to the table. Continuing our conversation pretty much from last time, like how do we just shine our light and show up in each moment?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So when you start something new, and I'm going to give this analogy of starting a college class, and you get there the first day, the first class you have, and you've got this really thick textbook that you may or may not want to do, and you get told about what the syllabus is, and you're supposed to have already read the first 3 chapters, which of course you didn't know about because you didn't have the syllabus, so you're 50 pages behind already. And there's more for 2 days from now when you have the class again. And all of these different assignments you see and tests and growth that you're going to experience over the time that you're in this class. And you're just feeling like, whoa, do I even want to be here? Do I really want to do this? How am I going to do this all at once? What is all this? What is this going to mean for me? And how am I going to really show up? And this feeling of overwhelm, of fear, of confusion, of being pulled in all these different directions at the same time and not knowing, like, where's your anchor? And what I'm noticing is that this is kind of coming up in the collective a lot of possibility of where are we going? What do we want? What does the next step look like? And really just kind of noticing that we all signed up for this. We all agreed that this is the best version for us right now. And all you need to do is be present in the moment. You don't need to know about next week. You don't need to know about tomorrow, just right now. And it all starts with one breath. And allowing that breath to feel and to be here. And when you do that, it kind of makes everything else not important. And yes, in a few minutes, you'll still have those assignments to do. But it'll be okay because you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to force the process. Really, this is all about flowing within this, whatever the life is showing or whatever life is showing up for you in that moment. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to feel that trepidation and uncertainty. because all you need is right now, right here. And then knowing that somebody out there up above knows exactly what you need right now. You don't need to know the whole plan from start to finish. It's not important. It's just right now.
So I resonate with that and I understand that. I've also noticed that there's a lot of people that don't. They don't believe in a higher power. They don't believe in a higher plan. Or maybe they do believe in a higher power, but they believe in it from the space of, I don't know, I call it like a savior complex. Like someone else or something else or God is going to come in and fix this for me. And it's this interesting paradigm of people want to know what they need to know, what they think they need to know, so they can know what they should do, should, right? We like to should on ourselves. And then also those of us that realize, hey, even if there's something that I don't necessarily like, that doesn't feel in resonance for me, that's not really my place to flow then, is it? It's just some information about what is in resonance and what isn't. And then my job is to simply be within myself, to respond from a place of what is right for me and know that everyone else is doing the same exact thing. And especially right now in society, there's so much uncertainty and fear. And those of us that are sensitive to that, to other people's energies and emotions and thoughts, like we're feeling everyone else and also ourselves and trying to find an anchor in it, right? It's not just the tasks that are laid out before us that are our day-to-day lives or our special programs we might be signing up for, businesses we might be launching, families we're taking care of. It's not just those earthly tasks that we already may feel overwhelmed by, but at the core of it, it's this question: what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I doing in this place? And I love that core question because that's the whole point of this podcast, to explore what's the purpose of life, right? For you and I, it's about evolving consciousness and becoming our highest potential in whatever way gives us a more fulfilling life, but also helps us to be of service in some way, right? That works for us. But other people, maybe their purpose in life, number one, they may not know, or they may not even know to ask that question. And so all this fear and confusion and feeling pulled in 10 different directions comes up because, from my perspective, because we're disconnected. We're disconnected from ourselves. We're disconnected from our hearts, from each other, from the divine energy that we are, right? Like every blade of grass knows I'm a blade of grass. I'm here to grow. I'm here to be a blade of grass, right? Maybe they don't, a blade of grass isn't sitting around thinking about it, right? It doesn't have that conscious awareness the way you and I do. But if we look outside of ourselves and even inside of ourselves, right? For example, my heart knows its job is to beat and pump blood in my body, right? As an organ. And my cells ideally know their job and they know what they're doing or should be doing. And sometimes they forget and weird things happen, right? Imbalances, disease, cancer is an example of cells that have forgotten their job, right? But it all goes back to that place of, who am I? Why am I here? What am I creating? What is the purpose of it all? So whenever I feel that sense of overwhelm and kind of scatteredness, I come back to that root question. What do I want my purpose to be? Not what is my purpose that's ordained by something outside myself. What do I want my life to be an expression of? And that helps me decide, okay, well, if I've got these tasks to complete, this book to read, this to-do list in my business, right? I can do any single activity or task from a place of gratitude, a place of love, a place of awareness that all of this stuff in life is just part of the soup, part of the tapestry. So, how do you get people to make that bridge? What would be your advice to someone? Or maybe share a personal experience you've had about anchoring to your purpose that's helped you move through those places of overwhelm and uncertainty.
I guess for me, um, I keep thinking about the story of Harry Potter. If, and there's at least 7 books, I lost count. Um, if when Harry first found out about Hogwarts and this whole world that was new to him from when he was living under the stairs, and that first moment where he realized there's something more. If you had popped into that movie or book and said, I'm going to hand you these 7 huge novels, read them all, this is what you're going to do. I think he probably would have ran away and said, absolutely not. If you had told him in that moment, here's everything that's going to happen, that's your purpose, that would have been so incredibly overwhelming to that person who didn't know the scope of the world, who didn't know the depths that he was going to have to go. And he probably would have turned around and been like, I would have if that was me. I do know, like, we are co-creators in this process. And in each moment, you have a choice. I do know I love to ask my guides, why am I here? What is this whole thing about? And I know they're not going to answer. And I actually thank them now for not telling me all of it because I do know I probably would say no. And I don't think I'm alone in that. But the whole idea that you can ask for clarity of right now. Like, what do I need to do right now in this moment? How do I be the best version of myself? Because that's a piece of your purpose. That is who you are. And you can call in and you can say, okay, well, because this is a co-creation, this is how this is what I want to do. Is this in alignment with where I'm headed, what my soul decided to do before I came here? And like I could tell you like countless different stories and experiences. You know, I know when I was first met my first husband that I was totally clearly guided by my guides that this is what I needed to do. And this is what I need to experience. And now, upon retrospect and going through divorce and all, you know, decade of experience, I now know that if I was told, here's the list of things you're going to do, my full purpose of why I needed to experience that situation in that marriage, I would have said, you're so ridiculously crazy. I'm not doing that. But had I not had that experience, I would not have grown in strength, in courage, in understanding of the world. I wouldn't have stepped into who I needed to be. Like all of those things, I would have cheated myself from learning if I had been given the bigger picture. And it doesn't always have to be a heavy experience like that. It can be something that's really beautiful. Like the idea of starting a new job or meeting someone, it can be beautiful. In fact, usually it's really beautiful in the moment, whatever it is that you're experiencing. But for you to know every piece of it would be too much for human heads and our human hearts to really grasp. But knowing that there is a plan, you can decide if the plan's outside of you and it's a creator or someone's helping lead the way, or you have decided this before you came here. Whatever works. Because life isn't random. I've had so many experiences, it's not possible it's random. And it is so beautifully scripted for you, by
Mhm.
you, because of you,
Yeah.
for you to learn what you're meant to learn. So being willing to be in the flow of your journey and your life, however it plays out for you, letting go of the resistance of, oh, it's not the way I want it to be, Instead of saying, looking in that direction where you're looking at the heaviness of, oh, I have all these challenges or all these burdens, and saying, what can I do with it? Completely turning it around and saying, okay, here's the opportunity I have right now. Do I take this opportunity? You get to decide. And then what happens and what unfolds. And then the next choice and the next choice and the next choice. But just being in that flowing, what comes up for you? Where do you go from here? Taking that single step forward. And then periodically turning around and you're looking back and say, wow, I have come so far. The
Mm.
good stuff, the bad stuff, the happy, the heavy, whatever. I have come so far. And then showing that gratitude for that experience of, wow, thank you for this scripting of this experience so that I could be the person that I am right now. Because if you change, that choose your own adventure from last time, if you change a piece of that, your story changes. And it's not about the details of where you've been, but it's knowing that now you have gained that perspective and that understanding, and you have the opportunity to be more. And just sitting in that flowing and allowing it to continue to come through you. I mean, that's the beauty and the journey of life. That I think is the purpose of being here. It isn't some grandiose, we have to accomplish X, Y, and Z, or we have to do these 5 things, or, change so many people's lives or whatever. It's just about being willing to be in the flow of the journey.
Mm, I love that. I love your analogies with Harry Potter and your first marriage. Like, I can feel that and sense that very clearly. And it's interesting because as you were talking, I was remembering times in my life where I feel like I get to make the choice. Like there's actually a choice to be made. And then there's those moments where I have to do something. I don't understand it. I don't know why. And I have to do it. And I don't even want to do it. I might even try to fight it. And I still know in the core of my being that I have to do it. It's like it is part of that blueprint or that map that lights up in me. And I have this knowing. And I had that with my husband when we first started dating. I had this knowing that he was really important to my life. And the first like 4 months we were dating, to me, I thought we were just hanging out. I was just hanging out with him and some other guys and some other friends. And I invite him over for spaghetti night Wednesdays. And most of my friends at the time were guys. I was in college, 19, 20. And he would come over and he would just chill in my apartment and watch all these little boys, right? He's quite a bit older than me. So he's like a man and he's watching these college age dudes, right? And just watching the dynamic and how some of the guys they wanted to date me and some of them didn't want to date me. And but there was like this weird dynamic of like these connections with people, right? And he just watched and he would just bide his time and he would just ask me to come hang out or do different things. And there was never this like pressure from him, but I always felt this pressure like between us. Like I knew that if I ever kissed him, that would be it. Like I'd be locked in and I wouldn't be able to escape. Like I felt like it was this cage in some way, right? And then when we did actually start dating, I let him kiss me for the first time. And then in my head, then we were dating. And he's like, we already been dating for 4 months. What are you talking about? But I remember just everything flowing so easily between us, never really having some of those conversations you should probably have before you marry someone. But there was just this knowing, like driving the relationship. And over the years, I have asked him, like, how did you know that you were going to marry me? How did you know that I was the person? Because he'd never even lived with a girl before me. And He's like, I don't know. I just knew. In like 2 weeks, I just knew I was going to marry you. Like, what do you mean? How did you know? I was not signed up for this. And he's like, yeah, you were. It's fine. And there's never been a question in his mind, even throughout our marriage of over 21 years. I've always had this feeling that I've got to have one foot out the door. What if there's something else? What if I'm missing out? What if this is the wrong thing? And God bless him, he has always just been this presence. This is what it is. This is what we chose. This is how it's supposed to be. And I'm always like, well, can we make this better? And can we do this? And like wanting to improve everything and dig deeper and not accept it the way that it is. And for many years, we struggled in our marriage. So there were a lot of things that I wanted to change and was actively seeking to end things. And even in those years, he was just like there, not really happy, but not really willing to look at it or acknowledge it. And now looking back, seeing all the patterns and all the things that we've gone through, this relationship was orchestrated by the divine. There was some kind of agreement, contract, call it what you will, for us to come together in this way, to have our children, to have our family, to have all the ups and downs of being human, and learning to navigate that in very different ways, because we were like polar opposites, the two of us. But I guess what I'm trying to say is there's those moments, right? When even if you try to escape it, you can't. And there's those soul connections that you have with other people, or those synchronicities that happen with certain situations that you know are touched by the divine. And it's just a truth, no matter what you say or do to the contrary. That's happened with my center. When the center like fell in my lap, I'd been looking for 3.5 years for a location, finally let it go. 6 months later, this place falls in my lap. And I knew the moment I saw the door. I hadn't even walked in the place yet, didn't even see it with the lights on. And I felt all this shaking in my system. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. This is the place. And my hands are shaking as I'm dialing the number on the door that says, call this number if you want to look at the place. And I'm shaking. And I'm thinking in my head, oh, this is so silly. They're probably not even going to answer, yada, yada. I was able to see the place the next day. And it was just like all these things fell into place. I didn't have to try. I didn't have to look for it. It just was what was meant to be. And realizing how much of my energy I spent spinning my wheels, trying to control an outcome, trying to make something happen the way I wanted it to happen. When if I could have just sat back and enjoyed the ride a little bit, trusted that whatever's meant for me will find a way, just trusting that takes a huge burden off of my shoulders, at least. When I remember that, like I don't have to try so hard. There is a plan. And even if you don't believe there's a plan, look around your life. Start noticing the miracles and the synchronicities and those people that just come into your life. And it's like you've known them forever and you can't even explain it. And there's just this bond, this connection, and you just get each other. Or there's the other times when you walk in a room and there's someone there that's a stranger, but you just, something about them, you're like, nah, no, I don't really need to talk to that person. Right? There's just this energy, right? There are so many things that are constantly guiding us. It doesn't have to be sitting in a meditation and saying, okay, my spiritual guides tell me what to do, right? I wish it was that simple sometimes, but like you said, it never is. And it's
That
so
would
much
take all
more
the fun out
fun.
of it. People have this saying about, take your rose-colored glasses off where everything is great and wonderful, right? So what if you could, for a moment, just set the intention to take off the sunglasses of separation, just set them down for a moment. And when you do that, you see all of the cords and the connections and the entanglements that everything has What is your relationship to the computer? What is your relationship to your partner? What is your relationship to your children? The paper in front of you, whatever it is, because there's energy associated with each of those. And there's also when you see someone, if you're looking at them, normally with the colors of separate or the glasses of separation, you just see them in their with your idea of who they are and how they are. You see them and you say, well, they look put together. They look confident. They must be this, they must be that. It doesn't matter what it is, but you have these ideas of who they are. But when you take off those sunglasses for just a moment, you can put them back on whenever, but just for a moment, take them off and you can see the dog hair on their coat. You can see their uncombed hair that just a moment before looked so perfect and so not a hair out of place. And then you realize, oh, she didn't do her hair today. Does it matter? No, it's just you noticing. You know, you notice how the person feels uncomfortable. You notice how they don't seem to be focusing on the conversation that you're having with them. You notice how they might be frustrated, whereas before you were just like, well, they just seem very aloof. But looking at it from their perception, their side of things, you're seeing that there's so much to that story. There's so much to the whole idea of everything. Nobody's put together. Nobody's got it all figured out. Nobody knows their whole plan. We're all just sitting here in the, I just want to know what I'm supposed to do now. And so are they. So when you realize that, you realize that you all of a sudden can see, still not wearing those glasses yet, you see so much more compassion for their experience because you can see that they're struggling through something. They're having a hard time with something. They're worried about something. It doesn't have to be the same things that you struggle with or worry about, but you just see that they are showing up the best they can. They are doing the best they can. They have fears, they have worries, and it's all okay. It doesn't matter if their fears and their worries seem insurmountable to you, or if they seem like, oh my gosh, that's no big deal. It's theirs, and to them it's important, just like your feelings and your fears and your trepidation towards whatever is coming up in the future that you don't know about necessarily, just like it is important to you. And when you start to see someone for who they are, you take away that the glasses of separation or the idea where you idealize someone and you let that filter go. You can actually see people for who they are. To me, that brings so much more compassion and understanding. And that's where you build that unity feeling and that remembrance of, oh, we are all just walking each other home. That funny idea that means so much and is so, so true. Have you had that come up for you, Jeanette?
Oh, all the time. All the time. It's so, what I'm hearing you say is just coming to this awareness within ourselves. That same message that we keep saying, live our lives, live your life, I'll live mine. And where the paths meet, where they converge, may we live life together for as long or as little as we choose or may have been chosen for us, depending on the agreements, right? And in it all, like trusting when we're in that place of fear and uncertainty, trusting that there is a path, even if we're creating the path as we go, right? There is a path and we have the ability to create, and it's all beautiful. I guess that's mostly what I'm feeling right now, is wanting to offer a space of hope and a space of grace for people to anchor to this knowing in themselves that even when it seems like the world is on fire all around us sometimes, that there is a reason, there is a purpose, whether we realize it or not. And, sometimes I think that I'm delusional for thinking that, right? But I know in my heart of hearts that it's true because I've had these experiences of unity, of oneness, and the experiences of absolute seeming separation, right? From the spiritual perspective, like we were talking about earlier, I've had those moments where you meet someone supposedly for the first time and it's like they feel like your best friend, or they feel like a part of you walking around outside of you. And that can't be explained from a logical perspective. And so if that's an experience that I have, I can lean on that and trust in the magic and the miraculous and the unexplainable. I can trust in that when things in life don't make sense, because that doesn't make sense. And yet I know it's true because I've had it so many times in my life. And I remember one of my dear friends that's no longer in my life, um, which I still have some sadness around. But the first time I met her, this was many years ago, probably 10 or 11 years ago, it was this random synchronicity. We went to a business meeting and she was a guest, and she shows up. And the moment I see her, she walks in the door, never met this person, right? She walks in the door and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know you. And she looks at me and she opens her arms super wide and she goes, where the hell have you been? This is the first thing we said to each other in this lifetime. And I said to her, just kind of sarcastically, I said, I've been waiting for you. And we just embraced and we're laughing and we're crying. And it was this incredible sense of homecoming, this homecoming in my heart. And I just had this joy that was overflowing. And we're sitting across from each other at this business meeting. And we're both just like giggling and like having telepathic conversations the whole time, trying not to be disruptive because we were so excited to see each other again for the first time. And so after we left the meeting that night, we stood outside by our cars on the street in this neighborhood. And we probably talked for 2 or 3 hours, just talked, like reintroduced ourselves. And we just knew that we were soul sisters, that we were supposed to be creating something or doing something or being together in some way. And through the progression of our friendship, I would get these visions of us sitting up in this like otherworldly realm, on our bellies, looking at this beautiful book with all these sparkly colors and these maps and these latitude, longitude lines. And we were looking down at the earth plane, and she's giggling and she's pointing. She's like, oh, and look what you're going to do there. And oh, that's where we're going to meet. And then we're going to do this. And then we're going to do that. And ha ha ha, isn't this going to be fun? And I remember this. And I know that it happened in some realm, in some time and space. And that's the stuff that keeps me going. When I look at what's happening in society and politics and with the plants and the earth and the children and the animals and all these things that just make my heart ache, I have this memory, this knowing that It's all here for us to play. It's a playground. And whether someone comes into our life for just a moment or for the whole experience, it's all beautiful. And we were so excited as souls to plan it out. And as humans, if we can just step into that place of curiosity, that excitement can come back. And it happens with those people that we love. We just love them so much and we can't explain why. It happens with those people that we don't like and we can't explain why, right? We have the lovers and we have the activators, and sometimes they are the same. And yeah, do you have anything like that you could share?
It's interesting. I've actually had a couple experiences where the first time I saw someone, I knew so much. It was like you look in their eyes and you recognize them. You're like, I know you. And it's like, ping. Your guides are just like, you better pay attention to this right now. And you just know. And it's interesting because so I've met two people that I knew were supposed to be in my life. Um, and then there was this other person that I met. Um, I met her a couple of years ago, probably 4 years ago now. And the first time that I saw her, I got that ping. It wasn't from her eyes though. And it was she was walking past me and I felt this energy of like aloof,
Mm.
um, of just I don't know how to explain it. That's pretty clear. This feeling of just like, I'm not here, I'm so much better than this. And it's funny because it's like, so I asked my guides, like, why do I need to know this? They're like, just pay attention. So then I ended up having a conversation with her, and I was so resistant to it. And I was just kept getting this feeling and this idea of like, she's she's so not on the same page as me. She's not someone I want to talk to. She's just not. Like, why? Why do I
Mm.
need to talk to her? And then I realized, and she found out, I don't know who it was, one of us, that we live not too far from each other. And we were in this program together, and it was like, well, that's convenient. Maybe we should chat. And I was like, fine. She was really wanting to meet because, we were doing this program and she wanted to talk about it. And so we talked and we had some conversations. And then slowly but quickly at the same time, I started realizing, all right, my guides had lined her up exactly and the situations up exactly so that we would meet. And even though I felt resistance in the experience, and I talked to her about this quite a few times, she likes to tell everyone this, um, that she didn't even see me the first time we met. Um, she said that the only recollection was that I was like some mouse in the wall, just, I dissolved into the
Aw.
wall kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it's funny because that's totally who I would show up as. So it was very accurate. It's pretty funny. Um, but we had and still have so much in common. And it's interesting because she's got a very different life situation than mine. I have lots of children and a husband, and I live on a farm, and she's single, no kids, living in the city. Totally corporate job. Very like I work from home. It's like you couldn't be more polar opposite, but it's perfect. And I have had so many experiences with her that I couldn't explain any other way than it was fully guided, fully aligned. My guide sent her, and her guide sent me. And I don't know how that all works, but I know that we have to do this. And it's so fun talking with her because she just gets it. And it doesn't make any sense on this 3D level of how do you get it? I'll be telling her something that's going on in my house, with my kids or husband or farm or any of those things. Doesn't matter what it is. And she always has the best wisdom. Like, you
Oh.
couldn't ask for anything better. So I hear you with that. But just knowing that there is somebody out there, some energy, some plan that says you in that experience, you needed her and she needed you, and we're going to match it perfectly. And so that's just one of a million possible examples I could give you of that feeling that divine guidance showing up exactly when it's supposed to, exactly the way it's supposed to, even in the most unexpected and opposite ways of what you think.
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, it's so funny, even when you and I started connecting more, um, I've always just had this sense that it's just playful and fun. And even when it's something that we're sharing that's really heavy and serious, like I feel a sense of safety and sisterhood and coming home, that kind of energy. Even though I don't necessarily think we're cut from the exact same cloth, if that is even a thing, but like, I don't know, it's just easy, right? And then other people, it's like trying to have a conversation, and I feel like we're speaking a different language. Like, it's like pulling teeth to get a point across or to have them understand you at any deep level. And so I take it as a blessing when these connections come into our lives. And also an example of how everything that's meant for you will find a way, and that everything is going to be okay, even when it feels like it's not, and that it's okay to not be okay, right? All of it is okay. And so these connections and synchronicities, I feel like they give us permission to open to the full experience of life because we're not alone, we're not separate, and we don't have to figure it all out,
Uh-huh. We
right?
just have to sit in that
Take a load
moment
off.
and yes, in that moment and have that experience. And it's really about the art of allowing the experience to go through you, not holding attachment to that, how you explain it in your head, but just allowing your heart to have the experience and the grace of going and flowing.
Mm, so good. Well, I think we are coming up on our time for today. So thank you so much for this conversation. And I know that it's going to be helpful to whoever hears it. Um, just little reminders about how we're all in this together and that there's a higher plan than we can possibly imagine. And I know we'll probably go into more stories about all of that at a later date, but just thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your wisdom and your shares.
Thank you, Jeanette.